All right. So, yeah, I just went to install this, and it's just a shelf I got to put in somebody's kitchen. And as soon as I placed, I realized you could see the top of this edge, so I got to put some edge banding on it. Then I got to paint it black. It's all right. But you know what we're going to do now? We're going to talk about sex with aliens. Yeah, I'm not talking about illegal aliens like from other countries. I know this is kooky, right? But somebody just made a comment on my this video, most recent video I just posted a few moments ago, and it made me laugh out loud. It made me LOL because he's like, well, what do you call it when you get VD from an alien? Close Encounters of the Sixth Kind. that's that's hysterical, man. But the thing was that instantly made my mind get crazy with these memories. I want you to sit down. Like, you know what? Pause this and then go get a beer or your favorite beverage and or whatever else you want to partake in, and get that ready. And then come back. All right. So I'll give you a second to do that. You back? All right. So here we go. this is going to be a little all over the place, but it should be entertaining. Ah, man, there was this lady that lived. I don't remember her name, but she lived in my neighborhood. She lived on Clinton, over near Raleigh Studios, like a block or so east of Raleigh Studios, on Clinton. This really cool old apartment, and I had seen her around town, and I went into her at the local liquor store. It's not there anymore. And one night I ran into her at the Three Clubs, which I think is still there. I don't know. What is that? It's on, I think that's on Vine, right? Over by the boxing gym. You guys know his name. I can't think. The Wild Card Boxing Gym. Anyhow, she was strikingly attractive, tall. If you wanted a picture in your mind of what she resembled, it would be like Bridget Nielsen. I don't know if you guys remember Bridget Nielsen from like the 80s, 90s. She was married to Sylvester Stallone for a bit. And I don't know if you know this. The story I recall with him was like she just, like, I think she stuck like naked pictures of herself under the door. And you hear him talk about it from the time period. And he's like, it looked like they took parts of different bodies and stuck it on her. Well, that's how this woman was built. Tall. I mean, she, in my memory, she was like 6 feet tall, blonde, strikingly attractive, short blonde hair, thin, with boobs. It's the sort of thing that if you're out and you got a couple drinks in you, and a woman like that approaches you, you're not turning that down, you know. So, yeah, that's what I did. So I ended up, and I had known her. Like I said, I'd seen her in the neighborhood before, so I wasn't like a complete stranger to her. And one thing led to another, and we went back to her place, and you know, that was it. But as I recall, and this is going to sound, I'm not going to get too into the weeds on this with the details because, you know, you guys don't need to hear that story, right? We're hanging out having a beer sometime. I'll get into the nitty gritty about it with you. There's a thing about when you're doing what I'm doing right here, and you want to go in sections and smooth this out. You want to crush the glue here, make sure it gets into the edge of that plywood. So, if you ever seen one of these before, it's kind of old, vintage kind of thing here. Heats up the glue here. Anyhow, what I recall was, and this sounds ridiculous, but you're still here, right? I remember looking down at her at one point, and I swear to God, it looked like she had black eyes. And she's looking at me, and she said, "Oh my God, you're actually looking at me." That's all I really remember. I remember spending the night. I remember getting up in the morning and talking to her and everything, and then that was it. And we became friends after that. And I would still see her around from time to time. I lent her a book I never got back, you know. And that was the end of that. It was not a big deal, but that always, you know, that was in my mind. And then, like, less than a year, maybe like 8 months later, I I was watching these UHF channels on my little black and white TV at the time. This was the 90s. This is probably around like 94 if I had to guess. Around that time, 94, 95. And there she was, and she's in an interview. She's being interviewed, and she's talking about, she's talking about how she has sex with aliens. That's what the whole interview was about. I'm watching this like, oh my God, that's so, whatever the heck her name was at the time. Like, what did I get myself into? What the hell is that all about? It was very safe sex, by the way. I mean, like, I wasn't going to say it, but it was overly sex. It was her using like some sort of spermicidal cream or something, and me using a condom, which I'm not a big fan of, but I'm kind of glad I did it that time after seeing this interview. You know what I'm saying? It was bizarre. She's talking about how these aliens visit her and they have sex with her and all that. And I'm just looking at this thinking, she's serious about it. And then it made me think back to the conversations that, the things that she was saying to me that evening. So it was bizarre. And then as I was thinking about this and trying to recall it on the drive over here, I started having these other thoughts. And I thought I should talk about this so that I don't forget, because I've been meaning to. The next part is going to be a dream I want to reveal to you guys, but then at the end I want to show you something. I'm going to add a couple pictures at the end of this video. So I have this client, and like 6-7 years ago, I was doing a lot of work for them, and I pulled away from them for different reasons. But I remember telling them about this one night. I can't recall it all because it was a long time. It was 6-7 years ago. But I remember I had this dream, and they're flush cutters for this purpose. And in the dream, it was in their kitchen, looking out the kitchen window, which looks just onto their driveway. But in the dream, and it does face like where downtown LA would be, and in the dream you could see it from there. And it was higher, and you were looking down into LA, but it was like, it changed time periods in the dream. It was like in the beginnings of LA, when they were first building it, but in my dream it was built upon ancient ruins, that there was like a pit with like Aztec iconography, stuff like that, and more Mesopotamian stuff going on there, and it was scary. It was like reptilian-esque going on there, and like sacrificed humans and bloodlust, and it was not a pleasant dream. It was unnerving. It was one of those dreams you wake up from in a cold sweat, you know? I had totally forgotten about this. It just hit me when I was thinking about all this stuff here. And I remember telling them about that dream. And there's weirdness with these people. I don't want to get too into it, but there's something going on there with these people. This is a crank neck chisel. I don't even know how sharp it is. I haven't used it in a while, but I use it for this purpose of trimming this off here. Seems to usually work pretty good if you get the grain direction correct. So anyhow, as I was saying, I distanced myself from these clients for a while, but that's why you remember the details of that dream, because then I remember thinking back on it. I remember around 2000 or so when they did the outdoor mall. And you can look these pictures up yourself. At Hollywood and Highland. It's right where Grumman's Chinese Theater is. And I'm going to include a picture. The styling, right, the aesthetic of the exterior design on this is all Mesopotamian. It's, what is it, the Anunnaki. They've got it right there in stone, exactly the way it looks if you went to Iraq right now, right? You know what's even weirder? Downtown, what's the building called down there? City Hall? The City Hall building in Los Angeles is capped with a stepped ziggurat pyramid, exactly like you would see in ancient Egypt and also in ancient Mesopotamia. Now, you combine what they're doing in this city with the architecture in your face, and then you think about what's going on with, you know, the kids stuff, the endocrine, you know, the blood stuff, all the weird stuff that goes on, full-on cult thing. And I can tell you this from personal experience because I used to go to these parties in the Hollywood Hills, and I never felt comfortable. It always seemed odd to me, the stuff people wanted to talk about. There were times when I was at these parties, and there were young kids there. I never saw anything too crazy, but it made me feel uncomfortable enough to leave early. And it's one of the reasons I distanced myself from the whole Hollywood scene with that. And I feel like I'm just trying to put all this together, but it seems interesting to me that you can't deny what I'm saying. I'm not drawing any conclusions. You can draw your own conclusions, okay? But I'm going to show you the pictures right at the end of this little short video here, and you'll see it. And you got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Like, what's that all about? And even the Egyptian theater up there. I mean, there's a lot of that going on here. And again, if you get back to this book, Our Occulted History, and you read that, and then you look at this town and what's going on, you know, there does seem to be... Now, some people today, they want to use the word demonic and talk about demons and that sort of thing. Because they're looking at it from a humanistic, religious point of view, and I'm not going to tell you, sit here and argue with you against that. I mean, I think that there could be some sort of evil thing going on. I'm not saying there is, I'm just saying that could happen separate of religion and demons and all that sort of thing. It could just be something we don't actually understand that well. That's more along the lines of, you know, other beings from other worlds sort of thing. You know, like we've been conditioned to think in terms of religion because it's simplified, and by having blind faith and accepting different things, the way things are written, then you just stop thinking. It's a way of turning your brain off, so you stop investigating that line of thinking. Oh, that's just religion. That's what that is. Okay, that's what that is. I don't have to know anymore. Which is like a way for them to protect themselves in a way. So this stuff has always been there. But it's just crazy, man, because you meet these people sometimes. I've seen things in people's faces on the street that really make me wonder. I remember walking down the street in New York City one time, and it was like a homeless person walking towards me. I use homeless person as a polite way of saying bum, you know. Walking towards me, and I looked into their eyes, and what I saw right there didn't seem human to me. And I'm not an easily frightened guy, but I remember that there was a look in that person's eyes that was instantly somewhat frightening. Now, I've had this thing before. I've talked about some celebrities I've run into where I'm just on the street and they walk by, and as they walk by, they pick up on me for some reason, and boom, their head snaps. They look at me, and they're looking at me like they're afraid of me for some reason. This thing I saw in New York City that day looked at me with no fright whatsoever, and if either of us felt a little bit of fear, it was me, which is not normal for me. I'm not scared of anything really. So anyhow, I'm just saying, look at the architecture, think about the people that are out here, and everything that's going on right now. And I just think there's some really big kooky stuff going on that is so off the wall that normal humans cannot allow themselves to even take the time to contemplate it, because the thought of exercising that, entertaining that thought is so abhorrent and frightening, and it would send them into a mental panic that they might not come out of. That's what it seems like to me. It seems that kooky. I don't know. What am I going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. I got to do this job. I got to sand this down. I got to paint this black. And then when it dries, get it done. And I got to finish milling. All this is all thickness plane, by the way. Everything here is slightly over 1 inch thick. And I got to rip everything for width. And these are my rail and door styles, as well as over there. And just keep working. So Sex with aliens, yeah. I mean, who knows? Many of you might have had sex with a being from another world already. I don't know. It's kooky. It's a serious subject, but I'm having fun with it because it's either laugh about nothing or cry about everything. You know what I'm saying? Be good to one another. Let's help wake each other up, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.